It's Kothlis, and it's Florian Sauer, who's one of our deep down technical nitty-gritty programmers, the guys who are responsible for the engine and who get all the pesky stuff from Thomas as the lead there. And it's Chris Crawford, the LD, who was working on that level. So Kothlis, Kothlis has water. What's the tricky thing about water?
Well, the tricky thing about water is making it look right. And this involves, of course, going to the beach and have a look how it really looks. And like having nice specular reflections and making it also look not too repetitive. It's quite a little bit tricky.
How did the water, or what does the water on Gamecube do compared to water on N64?
Oh, like first you have all this nice bump mapping things where you can the specular highlights and reflections. And this was something which was not possible on the N64.
No, the PlayStation. How does if you fly up to the islands there, how does the vegetation on the ground work?
The vegetation on the ground is generated on the fly while the player is getting close to the height map, and Tony, I guess, is generating positions based on the height map and on the normals of the height map.
So that's why suddenly it looks like a forest if you really get close to the thing.
And also you save a little bit in render performance, that it's not placed statically all over the place.
What was the main challenge on Kothlis, performance-wise? The water?
Oh yeah, the water, because like underneath the water in many places, of course, there's the height map working as the ocean ground, and therefore you draw the world in that case it's like twice. Mm-hmm. We optimized a little bit in cutting out the tiles underneath the water where it's not necessary.
How about when those ADATs and ATPTs come out of the water and they reflect in the water? How's that done?
Oh, like this is like a little bit, that was a little bit tricky with the mesh stuff, but it's basically placing virtual camera underneath the water level and rendering the AT-AT.
So it's actually two AT-ATs there, yeah. If you want so.
Yeah, and if you count the shadow in, it's 3 AT-ATs.
Yeah.
Like 2 pre-renders and then 1 main render.
Yeah, the shadow stuff is a good point. I mean, in Hoth, it's probably one of the most prominent things about the shadows. How are the shadows achieved? Is it hard to do?
Oh, it's with the Gamecube, it's quite nice to do, but it's like nevertheless lots of bookkeeping stuff that you're like simple things that you're able to render one piece of geometry multiple times during a frame. Like this is something which wasn't there on the N64, so the engine needs to be able to deal with it.
Yeah.
And like with the reflections in particular, it was a little bit tricky, like to cut off the reflections at the water level, that they don't extend underneath the water. It was a little bit very tricky.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So what's special about Kothlis as a level? I mean, aside from the visuals, Chris, what was the big challenge about it?
Gameplay-wise, well, the design called for multiple craft switching, not just switching from one craft to another. So I have a speeder and a Y-wing in there, and you have to use them both in order to complete the mission. Probably just balancing all the elements, trying to get all the elements to work together, and trying to tell the player what to do as far as like which crafts to switch to and when to use the best craft.
You probably also were the poor level designer who during the whole development time, aside from Jamie on Pref's belt, had the worst looking level for the longest time, right?
That's very true. Yeah, the beautiful water that you see now used to be one big gray sheet.
And there was no sky, because of course since there was no water, the artist kind of refused to touch the level at all, so the sky was terrible.
Yes.
The water was one big chunk of gray thing. The Star Destroyer was a toned down, ugly version of the Star Destroyer in Razor Rendezvous,
yeah,
right?
Literally the same model, just with pieces ripped off, shoved into the ground.
It got its love very late in the development project.
That's true.
Yeah, but Kirscher and Armando did an amazing job with the Star Destroyer.
Yeah, the Star Destroyer looks great. Yeah, definitely. Right, I'm here with Sigmund Wick, who is one of our more technical programmers, and in this case, just like on Battle for Naboo, Sigmund did a lot of the landscape engine part. So why don't you talk a little bit about how does it work that we see a complete landscape in front of us?
The engine itself, it's as you said, or it is actually quite similar to the Battle for Naboo engine and the Rogue engine. It is a height-map engine, meaning that every sample, if you would look at a two-dimensional grid, at every point you would have an elevation. So memory-wise, it's very efficient. That's one of the benefits with the height map approach.
So basically, a height map means you've got what the level designer actually creates, or the artist, is basically just a gray.
A grayscale.
Yeah, it's a gray picture, right?
Yes.
And from the gray picture, then it creates a landscape.
Each grayscale in an image would describe a height at a corresponding point in a two-dimensional grid. And there are, of course, severe drawbacks with an approach like that. For instance, topological. Since it's basically just two-dimensional. You can't have caves, and you can't have ridges, and it has restrictions. But we figured out that since this project had such a tight time schedule, it was very important that we were doing something we knew how to do, and we really felt that with this approach. And also memory-wise, it's a very efficient way of storing a landscape.
Compared to the old N64 games, I mean, let's say Rogue Squadron or Battle for Naboo, how much more detailed is the landscape really?
It's between 5 and 10 times as many polygons that get pushed through. So that's the biggest difference, and also there's a big difference in the texturing, of course. That's much more advanced this time. I would say that Nintendo has really made it much more easy for programmers with the Gamecube. But on the N64, I mean, I think that it had sort of a potential that never actually got fully used, because it was so difficult to really utilize some of that the power that machine had.
Yeah.
But of course, this time it's a big leap that in terms of performance. Yeah, I really think it makes work more simple for programmers.